Welcome to another episode of Not For Nothing. I am in Richmond, Virginia still, and I am visiting my good friends Tom and Jackie. I am sitting with Tom Strom. Tom, for those people who don't know, and this is fucking silly because I'd like to think the majority of the people that are going to tune in on this are going to know who you are, but explain to people who you are.
My name is Tom Strom. I've been tattooing since 1995. That's kind of it. I don't really know how to go further from that with that, really. It's just,
all right, well,
it's, I don't know.
Well, let's say you traveled a lot.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Massachusetts.
Yep.
You started your apprenticeship in Massachusetts. Well, you started tattooing in Massachusetts.
No, I started tattooing in Connecticut.
Oh, in Connecticut. Oh, yeah. That's right, because it was still illegal in Mass.
It was still illegal in Mass at that point. So I was actually living in Mass and driving down to Connecticut at that point. So it was a tough start at that point for my first year. Because I was working at a straw factory at night. And I work there all night, and I get up in the morning I basically drive home to my mom's where I was staying, go have breakfast, then I drive 2 hours down to Connecticut from there, work there all day, drive the 2 hours back up, sleep for an hour and a half, and then go back work at the straw factory all night.
Who were you working for in Connecticut?
That was Mike Nicholson at Papillon Tattoo.
Now, with Papillon, you were involved you learned how to build machines. You were building stuff that was being sold to the public.
Everything, and that was kind of nice because it really gave me a good understanding of how everything, not just how to use it, but how it works. Really the fundamentals of it, because we were doing everything like, winding coils, mixing your pigments, like even your needle bars, we were cutting the stock and bending the loops, like fixing your foot switch, your clip cords, your power supplies. So the nice thing with Mike also, like he didn't have much to teach as far as the technical end of tattooing, but it was more of his knowledge of all the actual build out. Like he would have me do things like, he would give me a list and he'd make me go to like 10 different hardware stores to find the different parts, which you can clearly get at one place.
Right.
But he wanted you to be, savvy in how you'd be able to get these things. Like,
dude, that's something that most people, I don't think nowadays even realize. Like everything came from scratch at that point. And
yeah,
he was the supplier that was sending stuff out to people that were building everything.
Yeah, I mean, even the suppliers only carried the basics for the most part. Like, most of your stuff for your machines that have spare parts, but again, if you're in a bind, like some breaks, like, you'd have to send it out. You could take a while for it to get back. It's not like nowadays where it's a lot more, streamlined.
Well, even nowadays though, I mean, when you break a spring on a machine, you decide to send it back to whatever supplier or whatever.
Well, that's the thing.
Whatever machine builder you bought it's going to take time. I remember back in the day with Seth and a bunch of those guys. If you broke a spring and you sent it back to them, they would do it eventually, but it wasn't like you were number one priority. They were trying to get new product out.
Well, and they're also busy tattooers at that time, so they're squeezing that in the middle of also their workload.
Exactly.
So being, again, if your machine, and especially if it's your favorite machine out of your 10 coil machines that works better than the rest of them, that machine dies that day, it's like, ugh.
Which is why at that time, it was pretty fucking important to know how to respring a machine, to know how to change a capacitor, to have the basic knowledge of things to do, just because you need to make sure that things are taken care of in a proper way, that you can take care of things in a proper way.
I actually gotten to the point where any of the machines that I'd had, I had it dialed enough to the point where, like, if I had a spring broken, I already had 10 cut backed up. So I had made sure that I'd, have years worth of equipment ready to go. So I wasn't just like, okay, I have to spend like an next hour cutting a spring and blah, 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 and getting it dialed in right.
Right.
These are all ready to go. So I was just like, I liked having that kind of stuff.
That was the thing even back in the day when, my knowledge of machines, I could put a machine together, I could respring a machine, I could tune a machine the way I want it to work. I could do all that, but you always had to have extra. And back then, a Papillon machine used different springs than an Aaron Kane machine.
Yeah.
There's all these little nuances between the machines. I remember like back in like '94, I think '93, I had purchased a couple of Mickey Sharp's machines and Mickey B's machines, and those machines were completely different, spring-wise and even contact-wise. I think the Mickey B's machine just had
then you're talking about the metals that you're going to get in different areas of the world. Like you're getting a machine from the UK as opposed from the West Coast.
Exactly, everything's metric. It's like a completely different system. Yeah. You can't just buy a contact point here and put it on that machine. And the Mickey B's machines had like just screws that they bought from some fucking hardware store. It was so fucking ghetto.
But again, that's the thing I like is like, that's when you know what you're doing. Like if you can make any part work still for you, and if you have the right idea and how it works and then the understanding of it, anything can work for you. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful machine or anything. I mean, I love still seeing older tattooers that just have this thing that just looks like it was built out of a junkyard.
Exactly.
That thing runs amazing.
Well, and again, the joy of back in the day with something like like you did all your own parts. You were able to repair all your own parts. It wasn't an issue of like oh, I got to wait for this to come in or whatever, or I'm going to toss this in a drawer and start over, which is I think was happening back then. I think the more machine builders that were coming out, the more people were just buying a machine when the spring broke or it went out of tune for them. They didn't bother trying to repair it. They just threw it in a drawer and either bought a brand new one or they just had one sitting around.
Which is going on more now than ever.
Most
people that run coil machines, I haven't talked to very many of them that actually know how to fix anything on it.
Yeah.
The basics, like even cleaning points and things like that, which are the most, it's a
basic
daily thing.
That was one of the first things the guy who taught me. He's just like, oh yeah, just take your little file there and file down your contact point. And I'm like, dude, there's got to be more to this than that. Like, there's no way this is the only way this machine is going to work properly. And this is the only thing you adjust rubber bands and file down the contact.
It's all simple stuff, but again, it just takes a basic understanding of mechanics,
right?
From there. But if you don't have somebody to show you how that works, like it's going to be a big difference.
Right, exactly.
But I like, again, that Mike was very good about that part. Like when it was kind of funny because as a machine builder, he was a very aggressive machine builder, let's put it that way. Like like when you set up your spring tension, like average,
the thing was a hammer.
Hammer's an understatement. Like if you're trying to like measure it by foot pounds, like average machine would run you'd have it set up between 300 and 400 foot pounds. His, no joking, would be like 850 to the point where the spring like would double back up into the contact point. It was just like, okay, like it was killing me because like every time he'd show me, it's like, it's gonna run like this, like you want to run like a raped ape, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but it's, whatever. In that, I also would never get tattooed by him because it was, you swear you watch skin flying when he's, using those fucking things.
That's fucking great.
It was funny.
So you were also involved, that was Starbright Pigment from back in the day. So you were involved also in the,
oh my God,
the making of the pigment. Like actually, and this is, again, Starbright was one of the first, I mean, would you consider it one of the first brands? Because I remember you were getting stuff from Mickey Sharp's. You would get stuff from, was it Dynamic back in the day, or was it that came over from Europe? Where the fuck
I can't remember what it was called at that point.
But
you only had a few early anyway.
There was very few. I know National. One of the Tom Butler used to have the whole National set.
Yeah.
I had purchased stuff from Unimax. We were using powders at the shop that we first started in, and then eventually when those powders started running down, that's when we started replacing it with like some Starbright colors, but I was never a big fan of Starbright, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, it's a much different pigment, but it was also
it's one of the first pre-dispersed pigments.
Yeah, and even in that, like, I mean, again, people wouldn't understand these days, like about getting pigments nowadays. You just buy them and they're beautiful and stuff like that. But back then, like, even as a supplier, like, there's no way to legally get the powder pigment,
right?
Because they're not going to sell it to you.
I think even now,
it's still sketchy, but at least it's more of a direct route. Like back when I worked for Mike, like at least I think it was every 2 months he'd call me roughly around 2 in the morning. He's like, "All right, it's time to go," and I'm like, "Okay, what?" So that meant we'd get in his truck, drive 2 hours south to some, I can't remember who the guy was, but he owned some printing place that he was able to buy the pigments, and we'd go buy them from him, and we'd put the tarp over the back of the truck and bring just these huge barrels, and it was kind of exciting, because you're like, oh my God, I'm buying powdered pigment illegally, but is there something to that? Like,
I think that's fucking amazing. I remember the first time you told me that, I was just like, you're fucking kidding me.
Yeah.
Like, it was literally that fucked up and technically illegal. I think that's, honestly, that's fucking cool as shit. I think that's amazing.
And even on that, I mean, Mike, and I think part of his brilliance with that, like, he did really a good job of actually like branding that product. Like, if anybody that it could see, before branding really was a thing, like he really, which made his pigment sell fast.
Well, the fact of the matter is, Starbright's still around. I mean, and it's still a preferred pigment of a lot of really good tattooers. Yeah. So, I think that's mad impressive. I think that's way cool. So you end up from there. You end up going to Minnesota.
Yeah. So,
and that was pretty much like what made you go to Minnesota? Like,
it was an accident. I had actually weirdly, there's a guy that came and worked at Papillon's for like a month. Something like that. He was just doing a guest spot there, and he knew Sean briefly at that point, and he said he was looking for an extra guy. So I called Sean and asked if I could come out to work, and then I took the trip out, and in that, he had basically let me know that he'd already offered the job to somebody else, and I could stay there for a couple of weeks. So I was planning on making my way out to Long Beach at a shop out there that I connected with, and as I was there, it quickly became apparent that the guy that he offered the job to didn't want the job. He couldn't take it, really, life complications. So he offered it to me, and I was like, well, I kind of like it here. I connected with the guys there really well, and so I ended up staying there, and I basically was planning on doing my 2 years. That's what he asked from me, so I did the 2 years. Everything was great, and then the last 4 or 5 months I was there, was just kind of finishing everything up, wrapping people up, because I was planning on going back out to that same shop in Long Island. And then I met Jackie, and that was the end of it. So
you ended up staying
there. Yeah.
So, and this is Sean Anderson. So if anybody doesn't know, Sean Anderson owns
Electric Dragonland.
Which
I think is now just called Dragonland.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. And I mean, Sean was like he was a pinnacle of the industry for a long time. Yeah, that's the thing.
There weren't hardly any custom shops back then at all. I mean, that was the thing. Like when I talked to Mike about it, it was a really hard moment because Mike was one of those people like if you work for him, he intends for you to work for him forever.
Right.
And he's very personal with you in that way. I mean, he really did take care of me. Like he set me up an apartment next door. I didn't pay for food or anything like that. But
this was a different day and age too. I think back then, people either loved or hated you, and you were treated in kind. Like I think you went into certain tattoo shops and you were treated like shit, and you were expected to work, and they didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Or like you said, they took you under their wing, and they really made sure that you were taken care of. Like that there was nothing you would want because they didn't want you. Like you said, they didn't want you going anywhere. They wanted to keep you for as long as possible. Yeah. I think that's something that's kind of lost in certain shops.
And that's the thing. I knew that was coming. I did feel bad, but at the same time, like he also kind of felt. I think he knew also that I had way more ambition than what that shop was. It's just Papillon's a straightforward flash shop.
Right.
In that 2 years, I mean, I outgrew that place fast. You know what I mean? So it was really just. I tried to talk to Mike about it I gave him a 6-month notice, and when I went to talk to him, he's like, well, you might as well just go pack your shit right now. And I'm like, I'm not even ready to move right now. He's like, it doesn't matter. Go pack your shit and get out. And I'm like, that was the last time I really spoke to him, and it was kind of brutal. But at the same time,
that was typical for the time, man. I know so many people, they're just like, I remember talking to my friend Jay Scott, and the guy he worked for, Hobo, he straight up said to him, he's like, hey man, the day you decide you're going to go, just do me a favor, pack your shit up and go. Just tell me and just pack your shit and go.
Yeah.
Well, what if we just give note? He's like, no, I don't really give a fuck. And that's just the way it was. I don't know if it was just because they were just like, they're done with you.
Yeah.
And I think in some cases it's also the fear of because I mean, there was some sketchy fucks in the business back then.
Yeah.
So I think they were afraid like if they gave you those 2 months, that you can come in, clean out the fucking shop one night, and no one would be the fucking.
And that's it. I mean, again, like I already knew the history. I mean, I was probably the more normal person working there. Like the other guys that I work with, they were like this older guy, Tom. Like he'd been tattooing 25 years, and he was a hard case. Like he was the guy you come in and like, hey, how's it going, Tom? He's like, I'm not 6 feet under, so we'll see how today goes. I'm like, cool.
It's like, good talking to you.
I think Mike got that as well because I was at that point, I'd never been around anything like that. I grew up in a very small town with nice people and get thrown into this. Like one of the guys at work there was an off and on again junkie and blah, blah. And it's just like, okay, what did I just step into? And Mike's just like, here you go.
I think that's a great life experience. I mean, it's it's definitely a shitty life experience. I know for me, it was the similar situation. Like, I'm around bikers and people I would never think to befriend.
I think the thing is in that a lot, because again, I was a lot quieter. I was really quiet. Like I was just I wasn't like, I don't know, timid or anything. I didn't really know you could talk that much or whatever. But, in that, I think it helped me become more open and, kind of receptive to people and really become the person that I am. Like, which is funny because again, you're in an age nowadays where people are avoiding those kind of situations. And to be honest, like, those kind of challenges really you figure out who you are as a person that way.
Right.
If you're avoiding kind of problems, you're not really giving yourself the chance to to be something more.
Right.
I think if I hadn't had that chance with Mike, I don't think I'd be the same person that I am.
Right.
Now.
So really early on, because I remember the first time. It may not have been the first time I met you, because every time I say that to somebody, they're like, "No, I met you like 6 months earlier, or 2 years earlier, whatever." But you had a really unique style. Like you were doing a lot of flash, with a heavy anime, like kind of like Gundam, like mechanical and organic stuff. You've always had a really, really unique and really personable style. How did that come about? Is that something that you?
I mean, it's honestly really more just because again, the area that I grew up in, there's not much for anything for entertainment. It's in the woods. When we finally did start having stuff to watch on TV, it was either Godzilla movies or anime.
Right.
Weirdly, so it was all like Robotech, Akira, things like that, and it was all that stuff was really heavily influenced on me. So I really enjoyed the stories. Like, still my favorite is Starblazer. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh
one.
Yeah.
That is it was one of the first things I ever seen that involved like death and things like that. And it's a cartoon, but it was just the way they drew it and the concept of the big naval ship flying through space. It was so just different. Like, who makes a naval ship flying through space?
Right.
So those kind of things compared to like anything else that we're seeing over here, it's so kind of like, especially at that era, you're talking about like He-Man, things like that. Those aren't great cartoons.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of those early like animes or mangas, it usually was late at night.
Yeah.
I remember what the hell was the name of the robot, the giant robot, Godzilla.
Voltron?
No. It was before that. It was. It used to come on like super late at night on. It started with a G. And for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of the fucking.
I can't remember. I didn't actually have access to that one. Like,
oh no, so
we had very limited shows of what.
Yeah,
we got.
like it was one of those things. It was like it was on cable. It was on some way back station. Like, and they would show it like once a week. And it started with a G, and I can't remember the fucking name of it. But I remember that having. But I was never influenced by that stuff. I was always influenced like early on with like. Universal Monsters and stuff like that. That was my biggest influence back in the day. And then once I became a teenager, I got into airbrushing, and then I think one of the first big influences was Olivia and Soriyama, and then from there I got into the classics like Gil Elfgren.
That's funny. I never, again, no access to anything like that. My only access was literally those two things. Like, otherwise, my world was like, it's a small like. Hunting, fishing, religious sports town. I'm not any of those things. So like I had no influx of anything, and I think that also helped me become my own thing without an outside influence, without like it's something to draw from. Okay, it's got to look like this.
Right.
I just drew how I knew how to draw, and it's still like that. Like I tend not to pay too much attention to what other people are doing, because just like anybody, you're susceptible to things coming in subconsciously. Whereas I try and just be aware of myself and like. Just do things my own way, and just without too much influence.
Back then too, you were one of the first people on your Flash used to use the alcohol markers.
So I started color pencils first.
Right. Well, I think we all did.
Everybody started the pencils, but the markers is really I loved. That was my first like real thing that I was like, okay, I really started being creative at that point. Like the pencils is like, I'm just emulating other Flash and drawing it my own way. But once I hit the markers, that's when I started actually producing things that were. Artwork for me, that I realized like, okay, this is something I'm really into,
Right. So that because I remember like I think I want to say it was Mad Hatter or something, but I picked up your Flash, I purchased your Flash, and I remember going back with it. I'm like, these are fucking alcohol markers.
That was Atlanta.
Was it Atlanta? And I think I might have been working with Corey Kruger at that time, and I remember trying to do stuff with the markers, and then. I think you used to work black and gray and then color on top of that.
No, it was all straight color. But it was on that illustration board, which is a lot thicker.
Okay.
So it allows your markers to really saturate really well.
So I think it was Corey that was the one that actually was like, yeah, dude, you can do black and gray renderings underneath and then do color on top. And then I started like, again, through Corey, like tinting, like using like a dark purple over browns to get certain effects. But it was you actually that made me run out and buy the first set of markers. And I think back then it was Prismacolor markers.
Yeah, it was.
And then eventually I discovered Copics and all that shit. But yeah, that really took me down a completely different road, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah. But again, even then, like that was something I picked off of. Like there was a lot of anime people back then. That's what they were using was markers. Like otherwise they're painting cells, but you see a lot of their handwritten stuff, and it's always marker. I was like,
right, okay,
I'll take that back. The biggest thing really was Ranxerox, all that marker work. That still, it's that.
So that was like, so if anybody doesn't know, Ranxerox is an old Liberatore character. The first time I'd seen it was in Heavy Metal.
Yeah.
And then eventually I picked up the trade books, which were fucking intense. This guy's he's still alive.
Is, yeah.
But now he does a lot of like natural history stuff, which is
well, that's the thing. Like he was always. I don't know much about him really, but what I did understand is that he was wanting to be more of a fine artist, and this was just something that paid the bills. But it didn't look like anything else. He was drawing figures that looked like real figures. They weren't superheroes with muscles and things like that.
And they weren't attractive.
No, not
like
at all.
That was the one thing.
It was gritty as fuck. Like I love that part of it. Like it was just. And again, like just the way, and it really his marker works very loose. Like it's not layered or anything like that.
No, but it's done. It's done in such a way that it has such a unique vibe to it. But your stuff, even down to the grittiness. And this is another thing I definitely want to touch on. You've got you've got a very unique style in the way in which you draw the things you work with, or the subject matters you work in. The earlier stuff that, like I was saying with the anime and the manga stuff. While it was definitely reminiscent of manga, it was definitely yours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I made a comment once about the figure that I did on you. It was one of your drawings that you had sent me, and then I just kind of, and no offense to you, I prettied up the girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I made it more.
Well, mine had a more stern face. Most of my stuff has like
your stuff is very stern.
Either stern or kind of sadness to it.
Exactly, or just like almost
inherent
weird, sickly. fucking crooked teeth.
Yeah,
Like
that's
it's
the way
like
it's supposed to look.
it's some like eraser head fucking goo, like weird shit.
I think that's the problem. Like, and not the problem, but I think that's more of like, even back when I would do portraits and stuff like that, it was like, I kind of made a conscious effort. I'm like, I'm not your guy for this because it's gonna look fucking creepy. Like, it's just I can't. Nothing comes out of me that's not that way. Like, I can do beautiful things, but it still has an inherent twinge of like, it's just weird, really.
Right.
And I'd like it to be another way, but at the same time, like, that's I don't know why.
So you say like when you're in Massachusetts, it's you've got one kind of feel. You move on to Minnesota, it definitely takes on a bit more of a polished feel to your work.
Yeah.
And then you guys decide to up and move to fucking Europe, and I mean
Well, in between there, don't forget. I mean, so when I was at Sean's place for the 6 years, that's when I went to Uptown Tattoo with Nick and everybody.
Right. Okay.
That hands down was what made me what I am. Period. It was being around all those people. And we were all on fire at that point, feeding off each other. And like, there's not one thing I do that isn't pulled from somebody at work that we've just kind of, taken that moment. And you don't rip it off, but you take it like, okay, how can I do this my way?
And you run with it. Yeah, so that was a classic. That's the classic reason you want to work in a shop.
Well, and especially a shop where it's all different artists. Like,
right.
You see shops nowadays where it's 7 people doing the same thing, and I can't tell the difference. This was clearly 7 people who don't do anything at all like each other,
styles,
but were feeding off each other, and it really was fast.
Who was the one that kind of pushed you into sculpting? Like, you had done a bunch of sculpture stuff.
That was just my own thing.
That was your own
thing?
thing?
Nobody really, I mean, Nick was doing like digital stuff really at that point, Nick
Right.
Strady. But he was kind of like my first connection artistic wise. Like, he's very much into, like, he knows everything about, like, he's like a heavy collector of paintings.
And
like
he's
that.
really trying to grow
He was really trying to grow.
So
he was my first real connection of that kind of thing. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. It's like we had John Sweet working with us, Zach Kinsey. Brandon Holt really was the deal. I mean,
Brandon, so when you first introduced me to his stuff, that's when your stuff kind of really took a turn too, because you became heavy in like lining and inking and texture with pen and ink.
Before Brandon, that's where I was experimenting more with realism, no outline, the whole painterly thing, which was fun.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember you showing me stuff that you did on Jackie and it was
like,
no line work, all and. You've just covered all that stuff.
Covered that whole thing. Yeah.
And it's nice that you didn't do line work back then because it's easy to cover.
Well, that's the thing. Really, if it had the line work, it wouldn't have been. Yeah, it wouldn't have.
It would have been much more difficult to cover.
But Brandon definitely once you kind of really see what somebody else is doing and like, it's just like, oh, I like that, but I don't want to copy Brandon, nor can I copy Brandon because Brandon's a machine. But I like that. Again, it's taking an aspect of what somebody's doing, and again, not ripping off, but taking how do I digest this
and running with it,
running my own version.
So the conversation I've had with almost every artist has been the fact that I don't want to say the business has gotten stale or stagnant, but it is. I think more people want to fit the mold of what's happening in our trade right now, especially with stuff like Instagram, because it shoves it down your throat.
I think it's not just our trade. I mean, it's in creatives in general. You see it with painters. You see it with music these days.
Do you think? Well, so do you think it's because of the huge influx of individuals that are getting into these business, whether it be painting, sculpting, whatever?
It's the inherent need as a human to want to fit in to whatever culture you're part of. But the easy thing now is to like, okay, this is the cool thing. It's a hot thing right now, so I'm going to jump on that because I can make a name quick or whatever. Instead of like, it's not easy taking the slow road. It's it's not easy at all. I mean, it's hard being your own thing and not adapting. Because there's days where you're like, yeah, I could do this for like a year and just make a better living, but at the same time, I would kill myself that way. Like, again, I have it back in my brain, like, well, this is not how I do this. This is not what I do. Right. Instead of trying to fit in, like, I keep a mental list of pretty much everything that's popular at the moment. That's not what I'm doing. I'm doing everything opposite that.
You're trying to stay. You're purposely trying to stay away from it. Which, again, like right now,
the big thing is, again, when I stopped doing realism, that's when it started becoming more popular, and I was like, well, I don't want to be part of that. I wanted to have my own thing at this point. So it's kind of a weird inherent trait for me where it's just like to avoid whatever the popular thing is, and it helps you honestly stand out faster, which is kind of the funny thing is you're trying to fit in at the same time. But at the same time, you're getting a lot.
But let me ask you a question. In our day and age, when you stood out, I think it did help you become popular faster. I don't think that's the case anymore.
Nowadays, no.
Yeah, nowadays it's like the more you stand out, the less likely. I think you could very well capture a nice audience, a small audience.
Well, that's it. I think for me, it's more of an honest audience, and I think that's what I appreciate more. Because you see people like, I've got this many followers, I've got this many whatever, but realistically, are they following you because they're specifically hot on what you're doing, or it's just because you're a part of that whole thing?
Well, I think that's been my issue with Instagram from the get-go. Is it's not for us. We've like everything else in our business, we have literally usurped it for us. Like we've borrowed it for us. The same with ink caps and anything, pigments, anything. It's all from something else, and we've taken it and tried to use it for our own trade. And I think with Instagram, something like that, I think it's hurting us. And I know there's going to be a lot of younger generation tattooers out there like, what the fuck are you talking about? We're killing it, man. We're good. I don't necessarily. I think we could do better with it than what we have.
Well,
now.
I think that, again, the inherent problem with social media in general is you have that compelling need of like, okay, I have to post today. I have to make something today that I have to be able to post. Like sometimes it doesn't work like that when you're an artist. Like you might go weeks, months without doing something you're even happy with. You know what I mean? So, but that pressure of having to post something makes people do things that they probably wouldn't normally do as an artist.
Well, again, and that's with something like this is a perfect example. I mean, there's been so many times where I'll be in the middle of a conversation with somebody, and the last thing I want to do is pull out a fucking camera and start recording. I was at a dinner with some friends, two chefs, one of which is like, I hate to use the word influencer, but he's an influencer chef.
Sure.
Super nice guy, very talented. But we're in the middle of the dinner, and he's got to, pose his pictures. He's got to, pose his dish and take a photo. And everything is for content. Everything is for content.
Well, that's it. And your brain is becoming wired that way of like, oh, I have to do this for this and this and this, instead of like having that free time to be able to create without any kind of pressure about what you're doing with it, who's going to see it, blah, 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 is really important.
Yeah, knowing you're going into the studio to paint, and then, don't forget to set your camera up, don't forget to do this, don't forget to make sure the fucking sound is on. It is to me, that adds a level of stress that it's aggravating that you have to be that way. But by the same token, I do understand that. I mean, that's just the way it is, man. There's no getting around.
No, it's just the way the world works today. I think it's also just trying to be, honest with yourself about what you're trying to do with it. If you're trying to make numbers and stuff like that, okay, be on it every day and whatever. But if you're trying to do something where you're just trying to be more personal about your work, you kind of need to step back and be more, post here and there, do your thing with it, and not rely on that thing. Because in the end, really, it's floating your ego of like, okay, I posted today, I've got this many likes on it, so it makes me feel better. Whereas when you post something that doesn't get many likes on it, you're like, oh, I got to go try and draw something different. And that's kind of the problem, because it's making you think of like, what am I doing wrong then? Instead of like, well, I'm doing what I want to do. Who cares if people like it?
So that's a hurdle. That's especially, I mean, being older and trying to fit that mold, you get to a point where I'm like, I just can't fucking be bothered.
Yeah.
But I can imagine somebody much younger who came into it that way.
Yeah.
I could see them being seriously affected by people not liking their shit, or people not paying attention to what they're posting or whatever. Personally, I mean, it bothers me a little bit, because I feel like that's how we're supposed to get ahead, because you got to follow the kids, whatever.
Yeah.
But I get to a point where I'm like, I really don't fucking care. This is just entirely too much fucking work I don't want to deal with.
No, I think I realized probably a few years ago that I can't keep up with that. I'm not built that way. It's not a bad thing. It's just I'm just not for that kind of thing. I use it, and I use it sparingly more. I could do harder at it and get more attention with it, but at the same time, like, it's already hard enough for me to be able to focus on tattooing, painting, pop-up, your home life and things like that without having to worry about, okay, I've got to do this.
Social media to boot.
I don't work like that, So for me, I'm more comfortable just posting periodically, and again, I get what I get out of it, and I'm okay with that, So I'm okay just kind of backing off and doing my own thing more that way,
So when did you guys move to Europe?
2014.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
And you spent a year in working with Thomas Kins. Were you actually with Thomas for like a year?
Yeah.
And was he the reason why you guys moved? Now, so Daventer is Holland?
Yeah, which used to be the capital before Amsterdam. So it's a beautiful old town.
I actually didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, it's neat. The interesting, I mean, it's not a touristy town. It's touristy for more like Germans and stuff like that, from the historical aspect. But most people don't really know what it is. So being there, I mean, I could probably say there's hardly any Americans that ever stepped foot in that town. So even getting legalized to be there, they were more like, "What are you doing here?
Why are you here?" Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we did move out there for Thomas. There's a couple of complications also with our dogs. Like, we were first talking about moving to the UK, but at that point you would have had to, have
quarantine
your dog quarantined
and shit.
for quite a while. Our dogs are old, so it made it better to go with Thomas. And really, it kind of worked out nice, because we were also wanting to focus on learning to paint better. That was a big motivation to move over there, go to study and blah blah blah. And being at Thomas's place allowed us really to kind of slow down a lot, because I didn't tattoo a whole lot over there. It really gave us a lot of time to.
So that was partially intentional, was not wanting to kill yourself tattooing.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know it was going to be that slow, but who cared? It gave us a really good year of really figuring out, because I don't think either of us really would be the artists we are now because of that moment, because it was in that time that really Jackie painted her first hand painting. Really, well, I mean, she did a couple before that, but it wasn't like, I mean, it's that one up there in particular. That was the one where it's like, okay, this is. She clicked
this
right
is
there.
The direction I want to go in.
I started figuring out more like backgrounds and things in my work instead of just doing the traditional. I'm a tattooer. I'm just going to put smoke back there and shit like that.
Right.
I want to have environments and things like that. And a lot of the things over there really influenced me that way. The buildings, the architecture, just the general feel of things over there. So it was really an important.
So that's what I wanted to touch on next, was because that's one of the things that's most startling with most of your work is it's definitely got you. It's got your handprints all over it, obviously, and the creepiness and the weirdness of the stuff. But it's the environments that you're putting stuff in, and it was. And again, I don't want to jump ahead to Edinburgh, but it was that place, I think, for me personally, seeing your work, that the work changed dramatically in the sense that it was the environments that were almost as important as the creepy character aspect.
Sunderland, that was really it.
Sunderland, so it's even before. So
yeah,
it's
so
well before.
Really when you start looking at it, so do you remember the painting I did with the two-headed pelican?
Yeah.
So that was Sunderland. There's a whole series of paintings that revolve basically around the backgrounds, and those were my first ones, and it really... I think that's where I felt.
And that was real architectural almost, because it's a lot of these ruins. And
yeah, like, so it's called Marsden Grotto. It's a hidden beach that's down below all these cliff sides. And it's kind of brutal. It's like, and you see in the bottom corner is like cave all these bones, but it's also a very big suicide area, like very tough. So it had a lot of, and I had a rough year being in that area also, the shop that I was at. There's a lot of feeling in that painting that really kind of just came out, and it kind of fit into a lot of things. Like there's another one, that really kind of allowed me to speak a story of like, what I'm doing there, how this place is affecting me. There's another one was a creature coming out of these the water in Trout Quarry there, and it really was just kind of like me coming to England after a slow year there, but coming into a harder situation. And it was really moments I'm like, okay, these paintings actually mean something to me. Like they're not just like a fun image with some cool background. Like these are actually things that say something.
Right,
so
exactly.
I think that was really where I found like, okay, I have a somewhat of a direction what I'm after here. Which is nice.
Oh, I remember visiting you guys in Sunderland. You were living in Shields at the time.
South
Shields, yeah. And I remember going out there and just being like, man, I'd never been visited in Holland. That was like, you guys were there for like a solid year, and then you ended up in Shields or South Shields. And I think that was the first time I came to visit you. And you guys went through some shit. And I don't know if you want to touch on any of that stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Yeah. It's just, sometimes you end up at a shop that thinks it's going to be great and it's not. And
exactly. And things tank. So now when you decide to move to Edinburgh, it's like, again, I noticed I guess I felt I noticed the work and the change in the work and the environments and stuff like that when you guys made that move. But I think it was more because I was enamored by Edinburgh as well. I think it's one of my favorite cities.
Well, I think that's the thing too. Like once we hit up there, that's when we were really exploring a lot more. Because again, our year in England was it was rough in a lot of ways. We didn't get to do as much as we wanted to. We were pretty broke, going through a really crappy situation. But when we hit Edinburgh, it was like we started traveling to Loch Ness and all these different castles and just things and like seeing things that like you don't really realize the effect you're going to have on you until you start thinking about it later and like, oh, I painted this thing and I see it and I'm like, that really means a lot to me. Like there's things in those things like. I think that it made me kind of become more observant in life. Like I've always been observant anyway of things around me, but this was more like, what am I doing here right now? How can this be implemented into a story of where I'm at right now in my life?
Right.
So it kind of gave me that moment, and I mean, Edinburgh obviously was the deal. Like,
well, that was the one thing.
The walking tombstones and things like that. The graveyards.
That's exactly. I think that's maybe because it's newer or it's more the latest work. But that was the stuff that I really, because I remember you taking me through you guys taking me through the cemeteries there, and we were walking back from like. Was it Prince Street? I think it was, and we cut through one of the
you get St. Cuthbert's right there. So there's a bunch of great graves. I mean, Greyfriars is amazing. Like there's another one that was right by our house in Dalry, and that one was one of my favorites because it's an old Victorian one that's now defunct. But it was like you have tombstones that are uncut, laying in ground in stacks that are covered in vines and moss, and it was just very kind of like the graveyard's dead even. So it's kind of a neat appeal in that. So it's like, there's so many things just in the graveyards that I really fell in love with, like the names on the gravestones, like. Names you've never heard before that you'll never hear again that don't exist, and plus things like I love that they would have how they died or their jobs. Like there's one of my favorites, like this guy was like so and so named Whip Maker. I'm like, that's pretty amazing.
Whip Maker,
nice.
Like,
things you don't see over here ever. You're really being affected by the real history, especially again like where I went to school. I didn't really learn a whole lot. It wasn't we were watching fishing movies in my history class, things like that. So I didn't really have an education that way. So being there and really getting to learn history firsthand and see it and feel it. And I love touching things. So like anything I can get my hands on, like whether it's a tombstone or a building or whatever, I want to touch it because there's something about I touch this, I'm connected to that part of history.
Right.
Even paintings and shouldn't be touching. I'm touching.
Yeah, exactly right. I remember one of the first times I went to the Frazetta Museum in Pennsylvania when they were on this third floor, the third story of the building that they owned, that Frank and his wife had owned, and I think it was his daughter. One of his daughters was there, and I was there with this artist named Joe Linsner. He was an artist who created Cry for Dawn. I was working with him at the time, and we drove out from Long Island to go to the museum. And I remember seeing the Death Dealer paintings. There were 3 of them at that time. Yeah. And the main Death Dealer painting is there. And he walked up and touched it. And that was like he was just like, I touched the Death Dealer. And it was one of those things like, dude, what are you doing? You're not supposed to touch that shit.
I know. And again, like I understand like oils in your fingers, I get it. But again, for me, there's something about, I've touched something. Yeah. Like I remember even when we went to Rembrandt's museum, his house. Like, did you ever get to go through there?
No, I never did. No,
not joking, dude. Like, just the whole thing is his whole house is a workshop. Like, it has different rooms, different things. Like his reference room, his painting room, stuff like that. But the way it works is you go through like you can go through together, but there's security guards that walk through, and everybody kind of travels through in groups.
Right.
I would always lag behind a little bit, so I'm like, I got to touch like 3 of the different skulls in all his paintings, like his brushes, like half of his stuff that's in his reference room. I got to touch his printing press, like
nice.
Again, like things that he had his hands on specifically. And it's just, there's something about it that I really enjoy. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember we did the Norman Rockwell Museum up in Massachusetts, and on there he's got they relocated a studio on the property, so you get to walk into his studio.
Oh, that's really cool. I still have yet to.
Oh, you've never been there?
Okay, it's happened. There's so many times. Like I actually screwed up the last one. We were supposed to go to see the illustration show that was there.
Oh, dude.
Oh. We were actually got up that morning to go to it. It was closed that day, and it was completely my fault. It was only open the day beforehand, and we had to leave the next day after
So anybody out there, in all honesty, if you have the opportunity to go to the Norman Rockwell Museum, it is totally worth doing, just to see his collection, the private collection of him. They always have some amazing shows there as well, and one of the shows they do is one of the shows I got to see randomly was a Alex Ross, the comic artist.
Yep.
Amazing, like the body of work. And I think Kingdom Come had come out before that. It was the Marvels one, but I think it was a lot of the artwork from Kingdom Come, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely amazing. And another show I got to see there, again, that one we did know about and we went purposely for it, was a J.C. Landecker. Landecker. Amazing. Like to see all that work personal, like up close. Absolutely gorgeous. If you're in Northampton, Mass, I think it's just outside of Northampton, I think.
Okay.
But totally worth checking out. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I remember I was supposed to see it. The first time I was supposed to see it was actually with Mike Nicholson.
Okay.
Actually, this is funny because he was the catalyst for me leaving Papillon. It's his own fault. There was a night, and Mike wasn't the guy who was very much interested in like the tattoo history or anything. He was just in it because he liked whatever. But there was a day he's like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I'm like, "Well, nothing. I'm here with you. You own me essentially. So obviously I'm doing whatever you're doing."
Exactly. Whatever you're doing.
So we're driving up to Williamstown tomorrow. Ed Hardy's giving a speech up there for the Pierce Arts and True Love show that was up there. It was hands down one of the life-changing moments that you're like, oh, this is a moment.
It clicks, yeah.
Getting to see him talk for the few hours and then get to talk with him after, and Mike the whole ride home, he's like, yeah, I don't think I should have brought you up here. I feel like that just made an impact with you that I wasn't ready for it. And like it was a strong talk about it.
Wow.
It was only a couple months after that I found out about the space and I ended up leaving.
That's impressive that he had the presence of mind to realize that he just opened your fucking eyes.
Because again, like when you go there, I mean, you had like. It was everything. You had Philip Liu, Leo Zoletta. The biggest thing for me really was getting to see Marcus Pacheco's. He had the original drawing for the stained glass piece.
Oh shit! Yeah,
that piece still is my hands down favorite thing I've ever seen.
Well, especially for that at that time, dude.
It was
like groundbreaking.
I mean, Marcus was doing things because everything up until that point was tattoo, but this was something where it was like big stained glass, the astronaut coming out of it at you.
And it's just an incredible piece of art.
Yeah, it's just dumb to look at. So I didn't realize you could do your artwork. I mean, I'd already started drawing some Flash, but it was still tattoo related at that point. It was literally that moment that made me start drawing like, oh, I can just do what I want.
I think that at that time in our trade, to see that kind of stuff, something you had never seen before. Like nowadays, you look at stuff and again, because of social media and because of media in general, it's almost like you're just so overwhelmed with shit that you're just kind of like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, it's a beautiful piece. I'm done. Like, It's very rare. It's very rare that you see something that's just like, oh my God, how did you do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And back then, it was like once a month, once a week. It wasn't ever once a week. It was almost every other month, maybe. something came out that you were just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
How did they do that?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's maybe the difference between our generation and generations that have come after is the fact that things start happening more rapidly. And I think it just kind of like dumbs things down to a point where you're just like, oh yeah, no, it's cool. I can do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the biggest thing is how
I think
many
there's
people
also
just,
into it, like, you know, that show in particular, he was very keen on he would have like photos of the tattoos and stuff like that, but he'd have the original drawing with a lot of sketch work also.
Yeah.
So like nowadays we have the ability to use our iPads and Procreate and stuff like that. We can erase all day long, change things. We're not really committing to anything, but in half of these drawings, you're seeing like this mistake was made here, but they had to work through it, and like
Right.
you could see that they had to generally work their brain to make that thing work out. And
Right.
especially like my favorites still were the Shotzi Gorman pieces. Like he had drawn these drawings that were like essentially graphite, but he had red pencil in there as well. But they were just again like, why would you approach it this way? And they were so beautiful.
Right.
But again, like he was so at that point, like he just seemed pretty dialed in what he was doing.
Shotzi was one of the first like artistes,
Yeah.
I think that came out, because I remember like we were looking at Eddie Deutsch and Marcus and Aaron Guy, but I think Shotzi was the one that kind of like he put a prettier face on it.
Yeah.
Not a prettier, a more professional face on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
very much so.
Yeah, exactly. Where the other guys are wearing ripped jeans and and Vans, Shotzi rolls up with a beret and a
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think he tried to class it up a little bit, and he was one of the first ones that went into like kind of commercial
Yeah, because all that
bringing
stuff that
tattoo
I
to
saw,
the commercial.
it was
end of
nothing
things.
tattoo.
I think he'd done the Absolute bottle where he
Yeah.
had done a painting of to look like a tattoo on the back of as a bodysuit or a back piece or something like that. And I remember when that came out, some of the industry was like, "What the fuck, dude? What are you doing?" And then the other part was like, "Oh, that's fucking sweet. Like
Yeah.
you actually did that." So to be one of the first people in that sense, like that's impressive, man. Nobody thought like that back then.
No, and again, it's not like that was intentional. It's just what you were doing naturally, because you're not dealing with a whole world of trying to keep up with that kind of thing. You're just
Right.
creating under your own volition and.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
Essentially.
I don't think it was done to like get ahead. I think
No,
it
it
was done
wasn't.
to just be creative.
Well, that's it, because you're exploring. You're not exploring to impress anybody, to get or anything like that. You're just trying things out and see what it does for you.
Exactly.
If it clicks with you as a person. And I think that's the thing also is like, again, right back to doing things by hand. Like you're kind of forced to do things that you wouldn't naturally do. Again, with the iPad stuff like that, every move you make is intentional.
Right.
There's something about when you're doing things by hand, whether it be painting or drawing, things come up organically that like, oh, I wasn't expecting this.
Right.
So I can work with this. Let me play off of this. Or, like there's something about like that making your brain work a little bit more.
Well, it's funny too, because there's been instances where I've done something on canvas or paper that I now try to bring to the iPad, and you try to figure it out there, and you sit back and it's like, why the fuck are you not just doing this on paper?
Well, because again, it's the committal part is the hard thing. I think that's like what you see a lot of nowadays is like, it's almost like there's a fear of that commitment of like, do I put this color in here? What if it doesn't work? Well, if it doesn't work, then you have to learn how to adjust other things around it and
Right.
make that work. Because you think about back in the day, like you didn't have that opportunity. Like, if you're talking about the Renaissance painters, they had to really understand how to manipulate your painting. Like if something wasn't working over here, okay, balance it over here and blah, blah, blah. Again, like to be in that position where you can't erase it. You can overpaint things like that a little bit,
Right.
but you still are worried about too much paint, things like that. There's something to that of really letting your brain work more that way, which I like.
Right.
Me and Jackie are very much like, on that road of like constantly just doing things by hand. Like it's,
Well, speaking of making your brain work, where was it that you got into the pop-up art? And for those who don't know, pop-up art is basically the little, like most people, I think most people are going to look at it as like kids' books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't until you showed me more that you realized it's so beyond that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But most people think of like opening it up and the things happen and whatnot. Those kinds of pop-up books. Like, where was it? Was it in South Shields at that point? Do you have an earlier
I think it's
interest
always
in
one
it?
of those things like, it's always, I don't think it matters who you are. Whenever you see a pop-up, it's magical.
Right.
It's like, I've always had an interest in just like, I like them, you know what I mean? But
Right.
at one point, Jackie had got me a book for Christmas, and it was in South Shields, just on the basic building blocks of it. And there's like 13 of them, so you learn through the book. But I sat on that book for years. I didn't have the time to be able to work on it, because at that point we're also working on painting and things like that. So
Right.
again, I don't need to throw something else in the mix. So I sat on that until COVID, and that was the end of it. Once COVID hit, I was like, I was already kind of getting, I don't want to say, I wasn't bored, but I was just kind of like, kind of when you get to some point with something creative, like you could do it second nature and it's not challenging enough anymore.
Right.
That's kind of where I was at that point. Like I knew the topics I was into at that point. Like I knew the direction I was at that point, but I think the biggest thing also, like for me, like my first real love when I was young, I want to be an animator. So I like things that move.
Right.
In that sense, but in painting, you're doing one still frame. So there was still something missing, you know. So the pop-ups were kind of thing where you can still animate at the same time, but it's still framing essentially. You know what I mean? So it kind of really clicked when I started doing it. I started finding out there's people out there that are really like, there's this guy, Matthew Reinhardt. He's kind of like he's the guy that's really taken pop-up and really just ran with it. He understands all the, you know, the way you're supposed to do things, but he does things that are like, I'm just going to mash this way and make a new folding thing that nobody's ever seen before. And he just does it very instinctually, but he's doing things that are very complicated books. Like he does all these ones like for Jurassic World and Stranger Things, like he's just nuts, you know, but it allows you to see, you can really explore this thing.
Right.
But his approach to it is as an animator. So he'll actually time the way things come out. Like some move slower, some move faster, and the way they feel and when they stuff like that. So he approaches it so you can actually have like a living moment with these things. And once I started seeing those, I was like, okay, again, like I can do what I want with that. Like I think the first one I got was the Walking Dead one. That one is all guts and everything else, and of course that's what I'm into. And I was like, the main spread is like 8 zombies opening up around a body where they're all just
I think you showed me this.
Yeah, it's intense. And I was like, well, if they're doing that, I could certainly do what I want to do, you know. And like it allowed me to also to know, like, you know, I think all the years that I've been doing stuff, like I've drawn a million different characters and things like that, but nothing really has a connection or a place or a thing or a backstory or anything. They're just things that I'm drawing, whereas this is actually allowing me to put them in a place together and actually a place to live.
So I think, though, a lot of the imagery that you were painting and then bringing onto the skin, they were all images that were definitely all you.
Yeah.
And they all did manage to keep that story, that idea, these characters. I don't want to call them characters because you don't really have a character. You have more in the way of species, I think.
That's it, really. And that's the thing. I think that's how my brain works, really. It's like one thing kind of leads to the next thing, and they're all part of the same thing. Like it's not like I'm trying to like, oh, this thing's from space and this thing's from over here. They all naturally, for me, just kind of live in the same world. But again, I had no world for them to live into. Whereas now, once I started doing pop-up, and like my first year was just kind of learning it and figuring it out. But now, like as I'm going on, like I told you, I started writing a story.
Right.
You know, and I'm only a few chapters in, but it's already started allowing me to see more of like, okay, I can do this with this story, and it kind of really go down the road with it. And it's kind of really challenged me in a whole different way, because again, pop-up is everything that I'm not. It's math, it's physics, and like
again, like, dude, when you showed me like the mechanics of some of these things, and I mean, it really is like you either have to know exactly what you're doing, or you got to be willing to fuck around and figure it out.
Well, that's the thing. Like, so pop-up, when you see most people do it, most people are keeping it within the basics of it. Like there's V-folds and parallel folds, and those are the two first basics. They kind of stay within that realm. You know, you can challenge yourself by using 3 or 4 mechanisms and, you know, building those on top of each other, but that's when it starts getting really complicated. Some of these books that you're seeing nowadays, I mean, you're talking like 30 things in one one page, and I'm like, it's really intense. Like, it takes, you know, like my friend in Denver, Roston, he runs a company called Proposition Press, and he was really kind of the guy who was like showing me what people are doing and how they're doing it. So like when we moved to Denver, that was kind of my point, was to get to know him better, and he really kind of just, you know, just the little time that I did get to spend with him allowed me to see like, okay, this is, you can do this way, but he gave me the roots of like, you know, really how to approach what I want to do. So now I'm like really just kind of keeping quiet with a lot of it, showing little bits here and there, but when it comes around, then I'm hoping that it will be full throttle with it.
All right, so now we get through COVID, and you and Jackie decide we're out. We're getting the fuck out now. Like there was a lot going on in
and that was, you know, it's unfortunate because we'd opened up our shop there with Elliot, and it was great, but it wasn't a decision we wanted to make. It had to happen because like COVID hit. It really was harder than it was here in the States because you're on an island. So,
dude, shit that, like, I mean, I've had conversations with people when we were in London and stuff. Like, I was blown away, and we were talking at that time. You, Jackie, Elliot, my wife Alethea, and I we'd get together on Skypes. Every week. I think we do it almost every week, every Sunday. And the shit that we were hearing there was blowing my mind. I was just like, God damn. And again, I don't want to dwell on that, but
no, but it's just it quickly became apparent that like we weren't going to make it there financially or anything.
Yeah, for the amount of time you guys had down was crazy.
That was it. You know, people here like, oh, I didn't work for a month. I'm like, dude, we didn't work for almost a year and a half. Like,
That's
you know,
incredible.
we'd only had our shop open for what, 6-9 months.
And Edinburgh is such a touristy area. You're a tattooer whose clients tend to have to travel to Edinburgh. You didn't really have much in the way of locals.
No, you don't have a lot of locals because again, it's a very touristy place. So it was that and Brexit. Brexit kind of stopped everything being shipping on and off. So like if we were shipping prints to the States, it would take 2 weeks. Normally, it was taking 3 to 4 months.
And it's costing twice as much, 3 times as much sometimes.
You know, stuff would get
it's almost like
lost.
sending stuff to Australia.
Yeah, I mean, Jackie was actually having problems getting stuff. Like, it seemed to be Chicago. Every time something would have to go to Chicago, it would just get lost. And we're like, we can't keep doing this. This is getting brutal.
I remember you guys having problems getting inks.
Everything. Like, obviously gloves were out of stock because, COVID.
Right.
So, and then on an island where now Brexit's coming through and nobody wants to ship on or off. So it was just like, it was a shitstorm of shitstorms. And it was like, we have to go. Like, it was sad leaving there. But at the same time, in hindsight, we also now realize that, like, we weren't really connecting there with anybody. Like, we had some people that we met, we got along with really well, and, Elliot and whatnot, and a couple other people. But for the most part, we really didn't make roots there. We had our shop, but that doesn't mean we're solid.
You're not. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you guys, and again, one of the things I'm most impressed by, and my wife says this all the time, Alethea says this all the time, is the fact that you guys are definitely a team. Like, I mean, the amount of traveling you guys have done, and what I mean by traveling, I don't mean, leaving countries and whatnot, although that is part of it, but just the amount of exploration you do in whatever area you go to, whether it be in the UK with where it shields and whatever, or whether it be going to Scotland. Like, the amount of travel, the amount of exploring you did in Scotland was impressive as shit. And the fact that you guys were able to pull it together enough to really kind of be creative together, but still stand out almost separately. You know what I mean? That's impressive as fuck. I mean, that's really, really impressive.
Thanks.
It's definitely inspiring from a standpoint of being being a couple with my wife and whatnot. But I don't want to lose track of where I want to go with this. But from there, you decide to you pick Colorado. Why did you pick Colorado?
Honestly, it was just a shot in the dark. We didn't want to go to a winter state again, so we're not going back to Minnesota. We're not going to Massachusetts or Connecticut.
Yeah, but fucking Denver is still...
Well, and that's the thing. Denver, but I mean, it's barely anything. I mean, it's, it snows there, and then next day it's 60 degrees.
No, that's true. I remember... So
that was the big thing, So, but it was also, like, it's centrally located, so most of my clients that are travelers can fly easy out of there. But the second thing that really was, the guy with the pop-up book company.
Oh, yeah. So going back to him, like, this is someone you made friends with via, I guess, email?
Yeah, when we were living in Scotland, my first couple, he had sent me a message and we started, connecting that way. And then when we started talking moving over the States, we had a few places on the list, like Portland was one, and we didn't really know where we were going, and then we started mentioning Denver. He's like, well, I live in Denver. And I'm like, you do live in Denver. So it was a good thing. And again, we didn't get to spend that much time. He's a busy guy. He's got a family and stuff like that. But what time I did get to spend with him, he's very open with everything. Like, I got to watch how he worked, how his setup was, and everything like that. And he self-publishes everything. Like, he does everything by himself.
Oh, for real? Okay.
Like, no joking. Like, he is a one-man machine. Like, he's really good at what he does, and like, he does stuff for. Right now, he's doing a Keith Haring book. It's amazing. Like, he did one with the Andy Warhol Foundation. Like, so he personally picks these projects and cold calls these people. He's like, I want to do this with you. This is the work that I've done. Like he did one with Mike Giant, Alex Pardee, Skinner, like all these. So like, he doesn't fuck around. Like, he really has a list of people that he wants to work with, and he just goes for it.
And he just contacts them directly. He doesn't have does he have like an agent or anything, or no?
No, it's literally just him. It is him.
Calls.
Like, he is very. And again,
he's pretty grassroots.
Yeah, very grassroots. And traditionally, he's a website builder. That's what he was doing before this. And he just kind of really just started doing it, and one thing just kind of led to another. And now he's got a very good catalog built up where he can have that as a backup. Like, hey, man, I'm contacting you because these are the things that I've done. Especially, again, when you're doing like Keith Haring and the Andy Warhol stuff.
Right.
Like, you are definitely in a good box at that point.
Right.
So he's doing really well with that kind of thing. And it's funny because, like, we're different people in that way. Like, I don't think I would ever want to go down that road of doing licensed stuff. And that was also another thing, listening to how that works. Like, it's an intense amount of thing to get licensed, the amount of money, stuff like that.
Lawyers, everything.
I don't want to be involved in anything like that.
Yeah,
like,
lawyers and everything. I could just imagine it being a major hassle.
It's a huge hassle. Like, some of it, like, even like the Warhol one, like, he had a lot of limitations of what he was allowed to show, when he was allowed to show, where he's allowed to show it. Like, it's the Keith Haring one seemed to be a lot more open. So you don't know what you're going to get into once you're into it, and once you've signed on, like, well, we're into this, and this is how it's going to work.
Right.
So I know he had a hard time even getting the Warhol one out there because he was only allowed to sell it in very certain spots. Like,
it's such a weird thing,
like,
man.
He couldn't do it. Like, normally does Kickstarter. You couldn't do a Kickstarter for that one. So, like, he had to fund that one by himself.
Wow, for real. See, that's, and again, I think you're right. Having to deal with licensed products, you're dealing with somebody else's, and especially when it comes to a dead person, you're dealing with their estate. You're dealing with their legacy. For the most part.
Yeah, again,
so I can see
like
people
Warhol,
being really picky.
What he started showing me is like the list of paperwork and things like that. It's like it's too much. I mean, that is all. It just seemed to be his biggest headache at any of it, really. Everything else is just the work part of it, and it goes how it goes. But that was the part that seemed to be the most stressful. That I was like, yeah, I don't really want to get into that part. You know, it's like, for me, anyways. I might, if I was that guy, I'd be doing Marvel tattoos. You know what I mean? But I'm not that guy. I don't really go down that road. I want to do that kind of thing anyway.
So you're in Denver for a year and a half.
Yeah, roughly.
And it was kind of like, I remember it was a rough start. It never really went anywhere. It did, like you said, give you a lot of an opportunity to just kind of chill and be creative.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember visiting you guys a couple of times, and it was uber slow. I mean, me personally, from an outsider's perspective, and just seeing it, it just seems like the talent pool in Denver is immense, and it just seemed like it was hard for anybody to really make it.
You know what's funny? Because I didn't really find the talent pool in Denver to be as immense as most people made it out to be. No. Here, it's a big difference. There's fucking people here killing it all across the city. Denver, you have a lot of good artists, but not to the level here, and it's a way smaller place here. Like, you know, it's funny because, like, again, there's a lot of shops, but nothing that was mind blowing over the top. Like, you have a good handful of ones, you know, like, you know, a lot of good artists, but nothing that was like, or not stuff that I connected with either. Right. I think that was the hard part. Like, my stuff, anyways, is always traditionally way left field from anything else. Right. So I think as I go on, like, my career just slows down a little bit more. But I'm okay with that part. But in Denver was really just, there was nothing there for me in that way.
Yeah, it almost like cranked to a halt.
No, yeah, there's just nothing.
And it just seemed like the majority of the artists there were more about, like, you know, they were okay with doing 2 to 3 tattoos a week. You know, they're charging ridiculous amount of money. They're slow as shit. Yeah. And they're, you know, what I mean by slow is they're fucking slow tattooers. Yeah. And they're making their bit of money, and then they're out snowboarding and fucking off.
Well, that's it. Most people moving there are moving there. I mean, all the people I worked at that shop with were from Texas and Florida. Right. And they all moved there literally to be at the mountains, to go snowboarding and skiing, whatever else. And again, we struggled with the elevation at Denver level, so the mountains were not for us.
Yeah, I remember. You know, I remember we did that road trip from when Alethea and I went and met you guys down in New Orleans, and then she flew home, and then we all went to Dallas, and then we did the trip from New Orleans to Dallas to Austin to Amarillo, Texas, and then back into Colorado. And I remember getting into the mountains, and immediately Jackie was just like, it just all hit the fan.
It's funny too, because, like, you know, the few times that we test it, like, we'd leave there and, like, is it just us or whatever? Then we drive up to Minnesota, and, like, hours after we'd leave Denver and we finally get down, it's like, oh my god, I feel so much better. Like, and again, like, you know, they tell you when you move there, like, you're either going to get used to it or not, or you just got to keep working, it'll get better. We were there a year and a half, and we're active people, and that's the thing. Like, we run all the time, blah, blah. Before we moved there, we'd already run a half marathon in Edinburgh. We were doing 4 or 5 miles for our average. We moved there, we could barely do 2 miles, if not 1 mile, without having to stop every now and then, because you're seeing stars. My legs were getting numb and shit like that. Like, at one point, Jack was out running. She had to call me because she got a migraine. She couldn't even see, and I'm like, Jesus. We are not meant to be here.
Well, the best was when you guys came to visit us in Connecticut, and it was just a miserable. Like, it was summer, I think. It might have been early October, maybe. I don't remember exactly, but I remember it just being a miserable day. It was just foggy, a little pissy rain, and you and Jackie decided you're gonna go running. And you come back in, and I'm sitting there in my robe with my coffee, and you come in, you guys are just dripping fucking wet. And you're like, oh my god, it's beautiful out. And I'm like, look out the window. I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind?
You gotta figure it out, because again, Denver, like, it's no joke. It's 300 some odd days of fucking sunshine. Like, there's days where, like, you know, there's days where, like, oh, I can't wait for it to be sunny out so you can go outside. Like, there's days where, like, let's just close the blinds and pretend it's fucking shit outside, because I don't want to be out there right now.
I think that's amazing that you guys, like, so obviously Denver was not for you.
No, definitely not. Again, it's just nothing there, and nothing against Denver. It's just we didn't connect there at all. Like,
so now you're in fucking Richmond. Again, pull it out of the hat. Like, what the fuck?
Again, also a complete accident. But again, like, some things happen for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, we were up at your place picking up our paintings, and then driving down here, it was just like, oh, it's beautiful down here. And it's also like, you know, so Jackie started asking questions, and, like, you know, like, I already knew enough at that point to know that DC is kind of the line for the winter belt. You know, like, they get winter here, but it's barely. I mean, last winter we didn't even see snow, nothing. Right. You know, so that's what I'm looking for. I don't mind the cold. It's really just, I don't like when it gets icy and things like that at this point. Like, I hate falling on ice. Like, all I can feel is just, like, my knees get crushed down in the, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not into it anymore. I'm not into shoveling.
That's how I felt the other night with the scooters.
Exactly. That's what I mean. You know what I mean? Going down that pavement is not fucking fun. So I'm just like, anything to avoid that kind of shit. And it's just that kind of cold anyways. I mean, you know, we grew up in it, being in Minnesota. Like, it's brutal. The days you get up and, like, don't go outside because your eyeballs can freeze, your lungs can collapse and shit like that. And I'm like, Jesus. I'd be out there riding my bike in that shit. And after a while,
I remember seeing photos of you from Minneapolis with fucking
all the icicles hanging
off your face.
Which I enjoyed the challenge again, but after a while, like, because when I had my my back injury, that was kind of really the end of it, because like the cold really set off my back quite a bit. Like even now, like I notice that if I get in a colder area, it's not fun for my back.
Yeah, it's more.
So the warmth, definitely, I like that better, you know.
Right.
So
So you guys are now here, and I will admit personally, like when you guys said you were going to move here, I took a drive down here because I used to come to the Richmond convention, the original Richmond convention with Billy Eason back in the day, and I think I'd done it. I don't even know how many years. It had to be. It was from 1995, I think, to probably just before Billy passed. I think I missed the last year or two before he had passed.
Yeah, I did a few years with Sean.
And shockingly, like I come back years after that, and Richmond is not the same place it used to be. I mean,
not even
from
close.
an art standpoint, from a progressive standpoint, from so many standpoints, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, it always had a bit of an art core to it, but it was more of a hardcore art core, which sounds weird. But like tattooing was like the thing. Like there was always a lot of tattooers. Timothy Hoyer, Chris O'Donnell came from here. Both tremendous fucking artists. You know what I mean? You have Brian Bruno here. You have there's some great fucking tattooers. Like you said before. Tremendous like staples to our business are here, or got their starts here, or whatever, and then coming back here many years later, or just a few years from today, I was genuinely impressed, and I was like, "Fuck, they're gonna eat this shit up. They're gonna love it here."
Yeah,
and I think I came here the first trip you guys made to visit, and you guys were completely enamored,
Yeah, it's kind of weird because again, like when there's a place like when you're traveling to, I'm like, oh, it's fun to be here, but there's nothing really for me as a person.
Right.
It's how we felt about Denver. I mean, even Edinburgh to an extent. Like, I loved the culture and I loved everything about it. But in the end, there's still nothing for me as a person there. Like,
right.
I don't connect with people that same way there. Whereas here, like, instantly, we just started meeting people. Like, seeing people that look like us, that talk like this. They're into the same things that we are. Like,
right.
Have that same, like, grassroots kind of doing
kind of like dialed into the whole lifestyle.
I mean, it's like, again, like you constantly see just bands flying themselves here. Like they really do everything by themselves here, and I like that thing.
Right.
Like Denver wasn't like that. Like any of the clubs, it's all like you got to be organized, you got to be a professional band. Do that. Whatever the thing was, like it was always more professionally done. Here, it just feels like more you can do this yourself. And I like that,
Right?
Like
I could totally see that, definitely, And again, I think that the thing that was most impressed to me, and you had said it once before with one of the guys you work with. Again, you guys took that same energy and that same exploration, that need for exploration, and dude, you guys are all over the fucking place. You're finding bike trails, you're finding different ways to get places, you're finding restaurants and bars.
Yeah.
So the people who've been living here for years and years and years, they never even knew these places existed. And again, that's
I
a
will
feather
say
in
that's
your
the thing
cap.
about here that I like, because again, Denver is not like that. Like,
right.
No, you ask somebody where to go, and like, I don't know, you just go to this neighborhood, whatever. But here, most people you ask, like, like when we were hanging out with Dave yesterday, like that guy, like when I first met him, he just gave me a list. It's like, okay, you have to go to this place. Like most people here, because again, everything here is more independently owned, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Like even Teresa's the same thing. Like she knows a lot of people. You see she supports a lot of these people, and
right.
I like that. It is very much more people are like, you got to go to this place for the right reasons and check out this place. So everybody's very kind of more connected here. Like
it is really nice. I mean, like I said, I talked to Teresa yesterday, and I'm impressed, man. Like she's trying to integrate herself into the neighborhood, into the collective of artists and culture here. And I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah, which again,
it's a very progressive culture.
It's you kind of have that feeling here that you can do that. I like that part because again,
right.
we haven't been Edinburgh. There's nothing like that, especially galleries and things like that.
Right.
And like Denver, same thing. Like we went to a few places there, and it's like, well, we don't really fit in this kind of environment. But here, instantly, it's like, okay, well, we can kind of figure it out. And again, like the studio space that we just got. It works out perfect because again, there's a gallery space in there that we can start showing our own shit, under our own control.
Under our own control,
which has always been the hard part. Like especially for me, like my stuff doesn't fit anywhere. Like it doesn't fit. It's not fine art by any means.
Oh, we've done 3 shows with you actually.
Yeah.
The first show we did with you was with John.
Yeah.
And that was at the Old Space Studio, the Hope Gallery, and the second one was with Jeff Gogwe.
Yeah.
And both really incredibly impressive shows, completely different.
Yeah.
2 different artists that were both sharing the same wall space, which was fucking cool as shit.
Yeah.
That was a mad feather in our cap. Absolutely, I loved it. And then the last one we did was with you and Jackie, and and that was again. I wish we had a better turnout for it, but again, the people who came through were genuinely blown away and impressed. You know what I mean? So, and like you said, to be able to have your own space and to be able to host your own events.
That's the thing, trying to rely on like, okay, how do I get, where can I show my things? Like, it's not that easy. The very few things that we got to do overseas was getting to do the London convention, that kind of thing. That was amazing because again, we're in our element anyways with the tattoo field. But at the London show, that's a fucking deal. You're getting to hang next to Mike Dorsey and Cam Rackham and a few other people. It was really a moment,
Right.
But here, it's not that easy. That kind of do that kind of thing. So it's kind of like, all right, again, my stuff is so left field. I don't know where to bring it anyway. So who do I contact to show my weird shit? So this I can you can come at our place to see our weird shit. So now we can actually start hosting shows on our own volition, our own control, show what we want to show, how we want to show it.
And I was gonna say, there's nobody who's gonna be like, oh, it's a bit too racy. Can we hide that at the back of the gallery?
Again, my stuff, I don't even know how to put it. It's like when I try to explain what I'm doing to anybody, they're like, oh, this kind of thing. I'm like, okay, well, I get that, but how do
well, so this is good. This is I did want to segue. I did want to touch on this, but I don't want to I don't want to take away from where I want to segue, but I am going to bring up how does it feel to be an apprentice again?
Feels amazing. It's making me relearn all kinds of things I never knew before. And I got to say, Volts is a great mentor. He's taught me a lot of things.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
It is funny because Volts is such a great guy. He's been very helpful through this whole thing.
Right.
He's been there for us. But again, I'd already been tattooing him for years before this. So I'm, apprenticing under a guy I've been tattooing,
So for anybody who doesn't know, because they came up from Europe, you can't just come to Richmond and work. And you have to have a certain amount of hours in, whatever.
Well, so Virginia, it's an older state, so they require you have to have 3 years consecutive in the United States. They won't accept anything from overseas or anything beforehand in the States. So we have to literally be apprentices for.
I'm just blown away by that. It's fucking. I remember busting your balls.
Yeah, it's funny. Having our clients fill out the separate form to go towards their apprenticeship hours.
That's incredible.
Thanks for I hope you don't mind an apprentice tattooing.
I've only got 25 years under my belt, but I think I got this.
Yeah.
Well, what I wanted to segue into is a perfect example of. You are a unique artist. You have your own thing, and like you're saying, where am I going to hang my stuff? Who's going to want to show my stuff? Your plan. I don't want to say it's a plan B. I think it's just the next step. You want to get it. You're in the process of writing your own pop-up book now, right?
Once a thing. I think that the thing is we're artists in general. In tattooing, no matter what anybody thinks, it's a hard field. Building up your retirement, unless you're really good with your money, or you're making good money enough to be able to start doing that kind of thing. I didn't have a good upbringing with finances or anything like that, so my life is just kind of day to day.
I'd say probably 80% of
most
the
artists, you know what I mean? But it also scares me at some point to know that my hands or my eyes are going to go at some point, and you don't know when that can be. You know what I mean? I've watched definitely tattooers have to stop at a young age, and what do I do from there? You know what I mean? I don't want to be in that boat. I want to at least have something that I can back up on, and that's really where pop up will hopefully do for me in that vein. But if painting, still same things like that. But I just don't want to be left in the wind. I remember. Again, was at Papillon's, that Tom guy that I work with, he, honestly, if he could have stopped tattooing 15 years before that, he would have.
He would have done it, yeah.
He was in rough shape, you know what I mean? The poor guy watching him have to work every day, and he's really struggled, and I don't want to be in that position, watching people, I don't want to have to tattoo when my hands or eyes aren't doing a good job anymore,
Right.
It would kill me to tattoo people permanently with something that I know is just not, up to par for me,
Right.
It's I want to be able to quit on a good note and know, okay, now's the right time, and it's not anytime soon by any means. I love tattooing, and at least now I'm not killing myself 5-6 days a week with it. I'm tattooing periodically, so I can focus on other things and not kill myself tattooing every day.
Right.
Which I like where I'm at right now. I could be a little busier, but at the same time, I don't. Even if I could do 10 tattoos a month, that's good for me. I don't want to be doing 30 tattoos in a month. It's just too much.
Well, I mean, you're also really focused on doing. Your own, custom work. It's strictly custom work. These are people coming to you to get what you do.
Yeah.
And the fact is, you're really fast.
Yeah.
And that's something I think a lot of artists don't realize. It's when someone sits down with you, they're most likely going to be completed, unless they're getting a sleeve started.
Yeah.
But even that, I mean, you're going to do it in probably a third of the time as most other artists.
Yeah.
So I think from that perspective, to be able to bang out a giant tattoo 5 days a week. Not that you couldn't do it, but you're at a day and age.
When we lived in Minneapolis, that's where I was at. It
right.
was nuts at that point because again, I had a solid clientele. I mean, that was probably my peak moment really at that point. But I also needed to back off because I was, physically at some point I was recovering from my back injury at that point. It had already been a year after at that point. There's no way I could go back to the way I was working like
right.
that. Nor do I want to anymore. it gets to be too much. Like, your first 10 years of tattooing are gung-ho, and then you start noticing yourself like, okay, I want a little more free time maybe, or a little more time to focus on what I'm doing. Like,
right.
Now I'm at the point where, like, I love tattooing, but I don't want to stop until I'm ready to tattooing, but I don't want to be forced to make that decision. And I want to, again, I need a backup. I just want to try and be smart,
So do you have a time schedule yet on your like how's the book coming along,
Well,
writing wise and creation wise?
I think when we first started talking about moving from the States, we gave ourselves a 5-year plan. It turned out to be about 6 years, but whatever. That 5-year plan thing really worked well, and like, we've kind of had that in frame of mind. Like, it doesn't have to be 5 years; it could be 2 years, whatever it is. But like, having that kind of goal helps you of like, okay, I've completed this amount of time. So when I've got that same thing, 5 years is kind of my deal, where I hopefully can kind of get things rolling with Pop at that point, try and be patient about it. Like,
right.
I'm trying not to push the writing part because I've never written anything, nor do I barely read anything in my life. So I don't really know the process, and I'm just trying to do what I do, how I would do it, writing and stuff like that, So
right.
just try not to push it, just let it happen naturally, and, in between the other things that I'm doing. So when it happens, and that's how it'll work. But at 5 years, I want to be able to have the book done and moving forward with that, and other things that I'm doing involving that.
So anything, any other big life things besides a brand new career? Anything that's on the horizon that you could see happening?
Not really. It's funny because it's always comes down to more like us being creative. Like, it's always like, what are we going to keep doing here? What are we going to do there? I mean, I don't think we really think much. It's always kind of more of like what the creative endeavor is. It never really is like, we always have things like, oh, I want to travel here and stuff like that, go see these things. But I mean, those are more like side steps. It's not something like I want to make a living doing that kind of thing. It's more just like, what am I going to be doing creatively? How am I going to manage to do that?
Nice.
Like, we're constantly back and forth. And I think that's the other thing between Jack and I both. We're incredibly multifaceted. Like, we've done a lot of different things.
Fuck yeah.
We can both paint in multiple mediums. Like, I can paint in oils, acrylics, watercolors, gouache, like markers, blah blah blah, sculpt. What the fuck? Like, how many things can you do? But I like that part because, those things fed into each other and also made me the artist that I am. But who knows what the next thing might be, Like, there's a point where I wanted to do stained glass for a while, but we had kids and 6 animals in the house. It was damn near impossible to do, so it just kind of fell through. But, things like that, something that might pique your interest, like, oh, I want to try that for a minute. And I like that moment of trying something new, and I don't know when that might be, but right now it's just pop up at this moment. So
nice.
That's kind of where that's going to go.
Very cool. So why don't you tell people what's like the social media stuff for the pop-up stuff, your social media stuff, like where it can be found right now?
Pretty easy. My Instagram for my stuff, for my tattoo work, and really my general painting stuff is just at Tom Strom. My Poptimal stuff is at Poptimal Pop-Ups. And it's, again, there's stuff on there. It's periodical because I'm just trying to keep it where I'm showing something that's important to me at the moment. So it's not, it's probably like once every other week that I'm posting on these. I try not to fall in the trap of like the pressure on myself of like, I have to post today. And, so things happen, things don't. Like, if anything, I'm reposting tattoos that I've done and just trying to keep people interested and get more work that way. But, I don't want to show anything that I'm not ready to show any because I don't want to be like, I'm doing this and like, it's never going to happen. So it's like, I don't want to show anything until I'm ready and then I know it's going to happen.
Right, exactly.
So I don't mind talking about things, but I'm not being like, this is definitely happening. It's just like, we'll see how it goes.
So keep an eye out.
Pay attention to who knows what the fuck's going to happen.
All right. Well, again, Tom Strom, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Hey, Tom, thanks for having me.
Like and subscribe. This is another episode. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you dug it. See you when I see you. Just hit stop.